What's going on, Excel fanatics? Verdexes here. This episode I'm going to show you how to use the index match function and how it kind of compares to the VLOOKUP. Both are very popular functions. The main difference that you'll see when you go through this is that the index match combination will actually be able to look left, unlike something that the VLOOKUP can't do. If you've seen any other videos, including the ones I've made, so that's kind of a drawback of the VLOOKUP. So the index match function makes up for that. So what is each of those if you're not really familiar? Index match is two separate formulas that are the index function and the match function. So the index, if you do equals index, what it does is the way you break it down is when you look at array or reference, that is the table that you're looking in, that you are highlighting. So like in a VLOOKUP, what is the table content that you're looking for information in? So the thing is with an index function, you highlight a range and do F4, lock it up. And when you hit column, you see that there's row number and then you see that there's a column number. So the thing is with this is if you can kind of see with the row and the column, that represents coordinates, if you can think about that, right? So that's your horizontal and your vertical. You know, if you think about any other situation with a grid in it, you need 2 points of information to get you a location, right? So it's just like that, same process. So say in this index here, I wanted to locate Billy. So what I'll do to bring that up is I know Billy is actually he's 2 rows down and 1 column over. So filling out the rows, it's 2 from where I have highlighted. And then for the column, also 2. Right? And that's how Billy became our output here, because that's where it located across and down. So that's how you can see that's how it comes up as a coordinate there. Hopefully that makes sense. So now what's the match function? So you can see when you type in match, that's actually a lookup, just like a VLOOKUP, but there's a key difference for the output on this, right? So say we want to look up Marcia, and the array we want to look up, it's not going to be, I notice how I dragged it down as a column and not doing a whole array like this, like I just did with the table. The thing is, a match can actually figure out the difference between a column and through rows, but the thing is, it can't really highlight a whole section like that. It gets confused. So you need to make sure that you're highlighting either a row or a column, and then depending on either a row or a column, it'll tell you what your output is. So what I mean by that is, if I close this and my match type is 0 or exact like a VLOOKUP, so I was looking up Marcia, right? So because I did a column, it's telling me that you're kind of looking at it as rows since I went straight down. So it showed me that the number 1 representing the first row that Marcia was in. So if I change that around, say if I just re-drag this, it's 2 now, because now that I switched it over to looking at columns, it recognized the difference between a row and a column, and now it's telling me that the position Marcia is in is 2. So what I can do, even if I adjust that, it changes to 1 because that Marcia becomes the starting position. So that's how that works. So hopefully that made sense to you. Now we'll go ahead and combine the two of them, and we'll show how this is a very powerful lookup combination. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to remove these two, and what I'm going to do is come up with Marcia. I'm going to find Marcia in this data set, and I'm going to have her hobby show. So we can tell just by eyeballing it, Marcia's hobby was going to be skydiving. So here's what we'll do. Go ahead and we'll start with the index function. So equals index, and let's highlight this whole table. And in the part where it says row number, this is where the match function is going to go in. And this is where like the true lookup aspect kicks in. So we're going to look up Marcia, and then the lookup array. What we're going to do here is we're just going to highlight this whole column, C, lock that in, comma, 0 is going to be exact match, and then comma again, and then what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to put in the number 3 for the column, because that's the third column where the hobby is. That's where the output's going to be. Close parentheses. And voila, we have the skydive. So let's show what the key difference is here with a VLOOKUP as well. So say in this situation we wanted to actually show the employee ID instead of the skydive. So the thing with the VLOOKUP, as I mentioned, that you can't look left. But here we'll be able to do that. So I don't need to change the formula around. I don't need to change the columns around. So what I'll do is actually, instead of 3, let's just change that to 1. And look, and it shows me the employee ID for Marcia. So that's a very big benefit to using the VLOOKUP, is just being able to use looking left and right within the same table and not having to worry about reordering or anything like that. Very helpful in that case. I think the only drawback really to the index match is just having to use 2 formulas at the same time. So sometimes it can be a little confusing and just kind of a bit of a brain buster. I mean, obviously with practice, it's not really that bad. But things like the XLOOKUP that came out, that actually will, if I made a video on that if you guys want to take a look. Definitely check out my other lookup videos if you get a chance. I think those help kind of get the mindset down if you're not too familiar with this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. I'll look to expand on this a bit more if needed, but I think that kind of gets right to the point. Alright, and I'll see you guys in the next video.